Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Ways and Means Committee meeting for June 7th, 2022. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Present.
Alderwoman Howard,
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Present.
Alderwoman Evans, Chairwoman Davis.
Present.
By present, you have quorum.
Thank you. Let's see, where am I at here? Okay. So we'd like to have approval of the minutes for June 4th, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Seconded.
It's been moved in second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans, Chairwoman Davis.
Aye.
Five ayes.
Alder-
Yes, ma'am, I'm listening.
Apologies, Alderwoman Spencer is here.
Thank you. And I vote for the minutes.
Correct, yes, thank you.
Thank
Sharita.
you. You're welcome.
Okay, so
Five votes, I'm sorry.
thank you very much. So we've approved our minutes for June 4th, and now we can move on with our agenda for today. As we have been working for the last few weeks on Board Bill number 1, it is the annual budget for the City of St. Louis for the calendar year 2022-2023. What I'd like to do is make sure that we have an opportunity here to give our wonderful presenters that are about to present to us all the time that they need to explain where we are and where we need to be as far as the services that they deliver on behalf of the City of St. Louis. And I didn't double check here, is our Director of the Communication Division will be presenting to us, Donna Brooke Saunders, and also with her, listed to help with presentation today, is our Video Production Manager, Andre Holman. Ms. Saunders, are you ready?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. So I just wanted to kind of give just a quick little overview of the activities of the division over the past year in particular, and then look to what we hope we will be working towards in the coming fiscal year. So as many of you already know, we have really taken the lead on making sure that this platform, Zoom, has been made available for the city's business in many ways, making sure that all of the Board of Aldermen meetings, committee meetings, any kind of public engagement activities that have occurred in our community, we've made sure that we've had a presence and providing that back to our residents and making sure that we have given them a platform to be informed. We've, of course, managed social media platforms as well with Facebook and YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, just making sure that in all ways that are necessary for us to be able to communicate with city residents about the workings of city government, STL TV has been there. And certainly we have seen an uptick over the past year on all of our social media platforms. And it continues to remain fairly steady with use by various entities from businesses as well as our residents. So this past year in particular, really for the last 2 years during this pandemic, we've worked very closely with the Department of Health on all things related to COVID messaging. So we've worked very closely with their public information department and help them create hundreds of public service announcements. We've taken the lead with them in distributing these messages via radio, newspapers, billboards, Metro bus transit. We've taken care of a lot of the graphic design work around that as well. So, and we continue to work closely with them on other health initiatives around women, men, health issues, food disparities, and currently we're working a little bit with them on some pet ownership responsibilities, to name just a few. As well, we are covering press events that take place in the community, and we are working to continue to produce programming around resources that are available from various departments and their services that are being offered. So, I think we've learned to take what was given to us and what occurred to us 2 years ago, and really find our voice in making sure that we could step up and provide a service to our community of importance to keep things in motion. Our studios are back in operation, and we continue to follow guidance of CDC and the health department around those measures to keep everyone safe. And just real quickly on our regulatory section, as you know, the regulatory section handles compliance for use of the right-of-way by telecommunications companies. We handle both anything that they are doing in terms of their construction in putting in fiber and conduit in our city right-of-way. And we also are in charge of the deployment of 5G small cells throughout the city. And so this fiscal year, we've seen about 450 permits that have come our way that we've handled just on backhaul, and about 135 permits on the 5G small cells. So right now we're looking at about a 30% increase over last fiscal year. So we anticipate certainly these levels of construction to continue as other carriers begin to ramp up their 5G plans in the coming year. And in 2023, we need the opportunity to address a number of areas to better serve our government and our residents. And our ask isn't just to benefit the division, but rather city government as a whole, and to be a greater service to our residents. As we know, the world is totally plugged in via social media, via everyone hasn't cut the cord yet, but certainly through television, through radio. And what we want to do is be able to continue to meet residents where they are. And I think it's ever more vital that we continue to navigate as we continue to navigate through this pandemic, but certainly as the future calls for us to sort of be ready in a way that local government is always readily available to its residents wherever they are. And so we did have a few asks in this current budget where we were looking for a few additional individuals to sort of help us with some of this, from getting like a social media specialist and such. But I think as we've re-examined where we are, and I'll let Andre talk a little bit more about programming specifically and the needs, is really going back and looking at how we can retain employees. That currently is I think our greatest struggle at this time is really retention of current employees that work for the division, and as well as our ability to recruit additional staff to work for the division. So as we're working really hard to meet those needs that exist within the community. So I'll let Andre kind of talk a little bit about what the future looks like for us and where we hope and plan to go for 2023. Andre? You got your mic's off.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you this morning for allowing us to come before the Ways and Means Committee. As the commissioner mentioned, my main focus this morning is obviously just the fact that most of our budget is basically spent on providing services for the residents of the city of St. Louis to have access to information, basically open the doors of transparency so that the residents of the city can see what's going on within City Hall. Obviously, that has changed over the last, I guess, coming up on 3 years, because we've had to expand in order for residents to be able to access the meetings from home, as the meetings have had to take place outside of City Hall. And so most people would say, well, that's what you've done, for many, many years. And yes, we've covered all the meetings and the committee meetings, but the one thing that has changed is that STL TV is not only doing the Board of Aldermen now, we're doing the entire city of St. Louis. So everyone who had a meeting in City Hall, if it was 2 or 3 people, they don't want to meet in City Hall anymore. So now it's on us as STL TV to assume that responsibility to make sure that that meeting is able to take place, and that is still recorded, and that is still posted to YouTube for all residents to be able to have access to. Even, even the RFPs that, that we have to cover. All those things have to be documented. And so I always tell people that, you have to look at it in a process. We're not just there to record it. We have to make sure that it gets posted and that it's available for the residents to be able to access whenever they want to watch it. So that's the one thing that I've really been looking at our numbers. And, so when you look at employee retirement, the firefighters retirement slate, the Joint Board of Health, the hospitals, Parking Commission, the hearing on liquor licenses, Preservation Board and Soldiers Memorial, they actually record those two do their meetings themselves, but they still send them to us for us to upload them and to make sure that they're right and labeled before they go up. So I think one of the things that I noticed is that when the commissioner asks for additional staff, it's not just an ask, it's because the demand has gone up. The digital content is continuing off, and we need to be in a position to be able to do these things. And so I would ask that we look at trying to make sure that the communication division continues to grow in the sense that it can handle the workload that's continuing to come in. And these are just meetings. That's not including the things that we do with the mayor's office, with the health department, which the commissioner just mentioned. There's a heavy load of work that comes in. And obviously, like most city departments, we're having problems retaining qualified employees. Right now, I've lost 2 in the last 2 years. I've lost 2 of my youngest talent, but the most creative talent, because they are looking for other opportunities. And as someone mentioned to us yesterday, these individuals, these millennials, they're not interested in a pension. They want money now. They want to get paid now. So it's unfortunate that, we are in a position where we're trying to fill a position that is very difficult. And it's to a point where we'll have to sacrifice and say, well, we just need a body or somebody who knows a little bit about video television production. Whereas, 10 years ago, we had people out the door wanting to work for STL TV. And these were like veterans, people who worked in the industry a long time. And so when you talk about, we just had a conversation with the Department of Personnel yesterday. When you talk about Debbie Monterey and Carol Daniel, who both work for KMOX, who knocked on the door and said, hey, I'd love to work for STL TV. Those are the things that I have become accustomed to, having people at the door wanting to come in and work for us. That is no longer the case. I'm finding just people who are fresh out of college who are wanting that opportunity. And granted, we've done that. We've given people opportunities because we know that it's important. Most of these individuals have come through STL TV as interns while they were in college. And so I feel a little bit better, and obviously the commissioner as well, and our video production supervisor, Shalene Houston, feel that it's easier for us to accept someone who we know they've come through our program, they've come through our training, to allow them at a young stage in their careers to come and work for STL TV. But that's not always the case. So I know that you all have heard it from departments that have come before you all, but it really needs to be addressed. We have to find a way to compensate these professionals. These are not entry-level positions. These are people with skills that they obtained while they're in college, but they are really professionals and they need to be paid as such. And so that was our plea to the Department of Personnel as well. Again, I just would ask that you all would try to make sure that STL TV has the things that we need in order to do the job that we need to do for the city of St. Louis. Again, I'm excited with the opportunities that are before us. We have a great opportunity with the space that we've acquired over in 1520. We thank the mayor's office for working with us and the comptroller's office working with us, because we've always needed to expand because we're landlocked as far as space in our studio on Oakland. And so now it'll give us a chance to expand and also open up the training facility that we've wanted to provide for Slate, so that we could get more people in the community involved in television production, so that they can learn not only about video production, but graphics, animation, whatever it is that they're interested in. We need to be able to have those things in order like most other cities provide. So we're excited about that. So we thank them for that. And we just ask that you continue to help us do what we need to do for the residents of the city of St. Louis. And that's basically provide information so they can have the resources, access to the resources that are available, which we were just talking about before the meeting started. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go right ahead, Donna.
Yeah, and I think one other item, Andre, you didn't mention was, our attempt, again, making sure that we're where the community is. We're looking at also streaming services that would be available, that are available as well, through Roku, Fire Stick, and what's the other one, Andre? Apple TV. So because, we do know that people have cut the cord, but we do know that there's still a vibrant number of people who do watch television still. But we want to be able to be in a position again to meet people where they are as a resource for all ways that we can communicate with all levels of our residents in the city.
Okay, can you elaborate on your specific ask that was included in the budget as an addition?
Yeah, so our original ask was to have a digital media person, again, looking at adding that position into our city budget or into our TO. That was the ask, so that we would have someone who would be responsible, specifically working on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, increasing our brand visibility, that kind of thing, user engagement, and working, again, thinking of the position not just for STL TV, but also to be in a position to work with other city departments, because one of the things that we know is that there are only a handful of city departments that actually have a PIO on staff, but there are many that need the same types of access to these platforms, but don't have personnel in place to help get those messages out on those various platforms. And so we would really like to have that digital media specialist on staff. City government is a little different. We don't have those types of titles, if you will, because as a government entity, I think we haven't really expanded looking at all the needs of what government needs in that respect. But that was certainly one of the asks that we have, is to bring that position on board, but to look at that position from a larger perspective of not just serving the communications division, but to be an agent to serve other city departments that don't have that as a resource. So we were looking at that. It would be a new position that would have to be created because that position doesn't exist. I think the other ask that we were hoping for was to add another full-time video production specialist as well. Again, thinking through of our plans to expand with, I call it STLTV2 over at 1520 and starting up a training facility specifically. There was an ask as well to bring in an additional VPS. Right now we are down one as it stands. So we're still trying to hopefully find someone to fill that position, but also looking for a second position as well, a new position as well.
So one of the things I wanted to say, sometimes we go the hard route to get to where we want to go. And we do probably have some job descriptions that have the salary range you're interested in, but it just doesn't have that specific title. I learned that from working for the state.
Okay.
Everybody can be a program manager. It's just that the details of their job as a program manager can fit in almost anywhere.
Okay.
Okay. And so just making sure that it's at the level that you need it, whether it's a 1 or 2 or 3, you know, that's another way to look at it to move it faster.
Yes.
And then also always ask for more than what you need so that you can get what you need. So
we tried this year.
We thought we did that.
We thought we did that, but it didn't work. So
I don't know. I guess we got to find out how other people are asking, I guess.
yeah. So
yeah.
you
I heard that.
Who's that?
Who was that?
Someone chimed in. I
Oh,
don't
that's Paul Payne.
What's a big
All I was saying, Madam Chair, is I heard that.
Okay.
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 You heard me.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as you heard me, then you know what's coming.
I'm glad
Okay.
Paul's on.
Well, I do appreciate the fact that you are truly thinking outside the box. And Andre, you know, I've been preaching this for 10 years, that this is where this department needed to go. It needed to be more inclusive and have more partnerships, and most especially the training aspect. So I'm excited about what you've said this morning. And I'm hoping that some of our universities will bring in some partnerships with you so that you can have as many interns as you need, and that they're in those training programs, and folks will have an opportunity to move forward. So this is good. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. So what I'm going to do now, Donna, if you have nothing else you need to add at this moment, I'd like to go through the committee so the committee can have discussion about what you have presented. Did you have anything else?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll start with Alderman Vaccaro.
First off, Donna and Andre, you guys do a wonderful job. And I will say that I have one complaint, but only one. And it has to do with the skinny can. I've been asking, I know I'm fat, but I thought you guys could fix that. And
What was it?
if it's in the budget, I seriously need that skinny can, because when we're in person, I'm showing my true fatness.
Oh no.
So my only complaint, other than that, you guys do a wonderful job.
Thank you. We'll
Thank
try
you,
to see if
guys.
there's one out there. We haven't come across that one yet, but we'll work on it.
When I go to just so you know, when I
Okay.
go to these little state fairs,
Okay.
they got these mirrors. They're
Oh,
kind of warpish looking. They make you a lot taller and thinner. And
Right.
I'm just thinking way outside the box.
Okay. We got you. Okay.
Anyway, God bless. Thank you, guys. You do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Howard.
Yes, I want to compliment you on the job you do on your shoestring budget. I had some questions regarding the what you asked for.
Yes.
I noticed you asked for, more facilities and grounds in your 5238. You asked for $25,000, and then you asked for technology equipment. Can you expand on that and how vital that is to you? And then again, you were asking for facility and grounds. You requested $57,000.
Yes.
Can you expand on that and what that would go for? I'm
Yes,
just
so
curious.
yes, ma'am. Yes. So that is in association with us doing the expansion into the training facility at 1520. So it involves us getting equipment, but we also will have to we'll also be responsible for the renovations that are going to need to take place in that space. So some of that covers what we anticipate to be the renovations that are necessary to prepare that, because it's right now it's just an open space and it needs HVAC. We're going to need electrical put in, lighting, things of that nature. So the idea was to have some funds available for that, but also from the equipment, we're going to look at, purchasing like laptops and things like that for the training part of it. So together, we've got about $75,000 altogether that we are currently working with at this point to be able to do some renovations there and to get the space up and running.
And I want to jump in, Donna, and mention the fact that, yes, we are the telecommunications, which is the internet and telephone system, and the build out itself. Those things we're receiving assistance from BPS, Facilities Management, for the build out. And the comptroller's office is helping us with the telecommunications. But yes, we would be responsible for the AC and also getting sprinklers put in that system, in that space, because it has to have, once we have people occupying that space, it has to have sprinklers put in, which we were told Bradley. So
this would be another studio, so to speak, like a training studio?
Yes.
You'll also need the soundproofing and all the other
Yes.
elements of a regular production studio.
Correct.
So have you approached Slate for any of this, since you'll be working in concert with them, hopefully?
So they're next on my list. We talked to them a while ago. We're looking to go back. Yeah, we're looking to go back and talk to them for access to the candidates that would be part of the training, so that they would provide us with the students and so forth, and looking at a partnership with them on that down the road. So yes, we did, but we have it with the current administration.
That's setting up a whole new studio is a very, very expensive endeavor, I understand. And then can you tell me more about what you do with the 5G and all of the things that are popping up in the neighborhoods?
Sure. So 5G, so once it was introduced and approved to start deployments in the city, so our role is that we serve as the first agent that receives the permits, reviews the permits, and reviews all the construction plans and so forth. And then we work with the other departments, the streets department, the water division, in some cases, if it's near a park, the parks department, to make sure that everybody reviews it, signs off on it before it's deployed and actually installed. And in most cases, we're just simply replacing city street lights with the 5G light. And so, we as the city set up the design so that we would have continuity. Otherwise, in some cities, there's a whole lot of different types of 5G that's deployed. And in some situations in the city, if they work with Ameren, for example, and put something on an Ameren pole or in the utility easement, they are generally putting several boxes around that particular pole. And ours everything is encased and just simply with the antenna on the top, so that there's uniformity in how they're deployed throughout the city. But we are engaged in the overall compliance review of anything that actually goes out into the city.
Do you realize any income from the permits, et cetera?
So the way we work with a consulting company, and currently the way that particular agreement was set up initially, because we did not have the ability to monitor all of the 50,000 plus light poles. We didn't have a means of being able to monitor how someone would use it, or if multiple companies were coming in to ask for the same pole, we engaged a third party to assist us with that. So in that respect, they actually received the application fee, which for each pole is $500, and they received the first $1,000 of make ready work. And then we do have a shared interest in that. There's a $150 annual fee, and the city receives $60 a year of that annual fee. So that's currently how it's set up.
Your department?
Currently it is. It's $60 per pole, and we've got probably about, right now the income is probably around $25,000 a year. So it's not a lot, but roughly about that.
Because that's a lot of work for nothing. And then what are the companies that we have? Verizon and who else?
AT&T, we look for them to start. There are a couple of companies that are working, like Extenet works on behalf of Sprint, which is now T-Mobile. But mostly it's been Verizon that has deployed in the city. So I would say probably 85%, well, probably 95% of the current 5G poles that are out there are Verizon poles. And just a handful are AT&T. But we do expect AT&T to begin to pick up pretty soon.
Okay, well, I hope we can help you out here. And as was stated before, you do a wonderful job on a shoestring budget. And you've gotten us through this pandemic in a grand fashion. So thank you so much. That's all I have.
Thank you,
Madam Chair.
All right. Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any questions at this time. I just want to echo my colleagues' gratitude for the work that you all do, especially these last couple of years. And I'm hoping as well that we can help you out and get the things that you need to expand and do your job even better. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Alderwoman Boyd.
Okay, I'm not gonna compliment you, Andre. Okay, a lot of my colleagues already said what I was gonna say. The only thing I'm adding is Donna and Andre are visionaries, and they saw this department in a larger scale. And I don't think people understand the significance of technology today, because our city, our world is run by technology. So as small a department they were already behind before they got started.
It's true.
And so they stepped up to the plate and pulled their shoulders back and supported our city tremendously. So I applaud you, because nobody would ever think this day at this time we will be looking at a computer talking to each other. You know, we always thought it'd always be, we'd be in the chambers or we'd be in this. And so nobody would ever think that. So my question, because I kept hearing, because we're dealing with a microwave generation now. So everybody wants it quick. And Andre was correct. They're not looking for 401s or long-term. That's not what they're looking for. This generation is looking for, how can I make it and make it fast and move on to the next level? So you said you had an intern program. So is that just for certain times of the year that they can come in to work with you? Or, because I'm thinking of people outside of St. Louis that are in that field, because I didn't even know that field was a demand as it was when you said animation and all, and I was like, oh my God, now I see. So is this, are we looking at just colleges within here, or is this program ongoing, or how does it work?
So one of the things that we've always tried to do was to make sure that we gave students, college students, high school students who are in the area the opportunity to come and get training and learn more about the field of television video production. So we have universities who work with us who are, you know, outside of Missouri. Because if a student says, hey, I'm from St. Louis, but I found an internship in St. Louis that I'd love to do, the universities allow them to come home for the summer and do an internship and get credit for that. And, you know, it's a win-win situation. We get to train and get, you know, more hands in the studio to help us with little small tasks, and, you know, it makes a big difference. So yes, it's extremely important that we work, you know, with our local high schools, which we work with Career Academy and Gateway STEM. Those are 2 high schools that every year they send us interns. But we work with all the universities from UMSL, Lindenwood, SIU, Edwardsville. I mean, we have the best internship program, I would probably say, in the Midwest for sure. And
Okay.
it's produced some really good video production specialists around the country. So yes.
Including Andre Holman. So he speaks
That's
from
right, Donna.
experience.
Stroking, Donna. I know that's right. And so I want to also say, Andre and Donna, the magic word that I kept hearing you all say is partnerships. Because as a city, we have to understand it's no more silos. As Alderwoman Davis said prior to us getting on, people feel they have power when they keep information to themselves. And someone told me that years ago, and he said the power is when you give the information out.
Yeah.
So you all have excelled to that point. You all have been very vocal. And so I want to make sure that the city understands, and the people that are listening understand. You all have went, as Star Trek said, you have went into an atmosphere that no man would ever think would happen.
Right.
And so you had taken that challenge on, and I applaud you. And I'm pretty sure we want to work to help you all, because as I said earlier, you all were already behind. So we started fighting some years ago to kind of help you all, to bring you up. So people have to get with the times and understand that technology is here and we can't get away from it. You know, people keep saying that we don't want this. When you get through, everybody's listening, everybody sees. So we need to show what we have for our city to make sure that we are looked at as a city for the next century. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Oldenburg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions, but just a quick comment that it's been great to see the communications division and come, you know, from where it is and to where it is now. And you all have always remained very professional and kept up in this age of constant transparency and right government accountability. You all are great partners in making sure that, you know, we are always in constant communication, not only with each other as doing the city's business, but also to the public. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues. You all have done an amazing job with what you have. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Evans.
I don't think she's on, Chairwoman Davis.
Yeah, I just checked. I didn't see her. I didn't really see. Was there any other alderperson on that wanted to have any comments? Please open your mic and go right ahead. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move forward here. One of the things that I additionally wanted to say is how important your communication division is to the overall governance of a city. Most especially when you have a station that can stay on 24 hours, that is continually providing information, education to that community and to others who are not a part of it. That's one of the first things I do when I go to a new city, is I go to their government channel so I can find out what's going on. I want to know what is going on with the people who live there and what is the climate there, what is a priority for the culture there. So it's this is a valuable tool. I do believe that early on, it wasn't understood as well. I think we're getting there. And we probably should look forward to next year. Prayerfully, we'll have a better tax base as far as having the city operate more fully, and we can do even more. So, Paul, you heard me. We know that there's still another position we need to find the money for, and it's not a significant amount of money. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands or millions. So I think we'll be able to figure that out. But I wanted to go back to you, Donna.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us that you think we should know as we close out on your presentation?
I just want to thank you as the chair and the committee for your words today. We really do appreciate the support and hope that our plans are to continue to fight through. If you give me lemonade, I'm gonna find me a little sugar and make you some sweet lemonade. I promise you, we'll get it done. But any help that we can get, just to have the bodies in place. Again, a bigger picture is creating a staff that works for the city as a whole, which we do as STLTV. Like we're here for all aspects of city government, local government, and to shed a lens on what we are doing as a city that is really of benefit to all of us as residents of this great city. So, we appreciate any support that we can get. We work hard. We do look for ways to be frugal. We look for ways that we may be able to generate additional revenue through some of our efforts of, when city, various departments may get grants that come into play, we do look at, let's bid on that. Let's see if we can assist that department in fulfilling that grant so that those funds can help us continue to move things forward when that opportunity comes before us. So we're not just, asking, we're not just looking to take, we're looking to give back in many more ways than ever before, really. And I think the time is right for us to continue to do that. As we face all these different aspects of technology, that we just need to be in all those spaces so that we can be in all those places. So I thank you all for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you too. Well, thank you very much. And we hope our response will be favorable for you at the end of this process, and continue to do the good work. On rare occasions, I find myself saying, if only, and when you have to use those words too much, it means that things are not right.
Mm-hmm.
I want to use those words less in the future.
I have a question, if I could.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
It's more to Paul Payne, but Paul, on the build out of that studio, considering that they do community service announcements and all the things they do, couldn't CARES Act money be used to, and that's a one-time thing. We always talk about sustainable. It's a one-time thing. Why couldn't we use, I'm just asking, couldn't that money be used to go ahead and build that studio out while we're doing this? I mean, it seems like what they do is all public service related.
Well, I mean, that's something that you'd all have to debate among yourselves in terms of when you get to those uses, which is that something that you would like to do? I mean, that obviously it's up to the Board of E&A as well as the Board of Aldermen to determine that. So.
But you would, I'm asking like an opinion. So if we try to go that route, you feel it falls within the CARES Act money? I know there's certain
You mean,
restrictions.
you're referring to ARPA, right?
Right, yes.
Okay, so, yeah, I without having seen all the plans, I mean, obviously, if you were just talking about one time, as we talked about before, expenditures. Now, if you're talking about building this and then adding people to it, then that's more complicated.
No, I think they were saying more like they got the place, but they have to be able to build the studio out. The cost of the soundproofing and all the different things, which makes them more efficient, not the other way. But so that was really my question. It seems like, in my understanding is, you think it would fall under that money?
Well, I mean, that's for your body to determine whether or not you want to use the funds for that purpose.
Right. But sometimes I propose things and they say, well, that's outside the lines of what. And so I'm just asking, this seems to me like it would be within the lines of what that money can be spent for.
Yeah,
I guess that's
I
what
understand.
I'm asking.
Yeah, I understand your question, but that's not a Paul Payne answer. It should come from a different. It should come from the chief of staff or the director of operations from the executive branch of the mayor's office, not Paul Payne.
Okay, I think we should ask him. It seems like a good ask.
Yes.
Isn't that the director of operations right there? We can ask her. She's right there. I see her picture.
Okay. Nancy, are you available now?
Yes, I am.
Go right ahead.
Alderwoman. So to answer the question, it could potentially come out of ARPA money. I've had conversations with Andre and Donna on trying to figure out what we get through general funding and then come back and see where we're at as we prepare the next round of ARPA. We haven't finished those conversations. The one issue that I think Paul is subtly raising is there's a preference as much as possible not to create permanent jobs with ARPA money because it only lasts so long. So that's why we're also looking for them to partner with Slate, because Slate has ability to have people paid while they're learning the trade. It doesn't help them with staffing long-term, but that, to answer Alderman from the 23rd question, yes, we can look at that as part of the ARPA bill. No guarantees, because as you all know, the same thing that happens to you happens to us. Everybody, all 300,000 members and the citizens of the city of St. Louis have an idea of how that money should be spent. But we are probably scheduled to talk again after we get through the budget process to see where people landed, so we would know what they still had needs for. So it's on my list of needs that were not met.
Okay.
So Alderman Vaccaro, does that answer? Sounds like everybody's on the right track and they're working together.
It seems to answer. I see Alderwoman Howard has her hand up. Maybe she's following up, but it seems like a one-time build out of something that makes sense, that lets the community know what's going on, not only just at the alderman meetings, but public safety events. I don't think it says you were going to put on a whole bunch of new employees, but I think it's an important build out, to make them. It's good to say, here's your space, but we're not going to give you the money to make it usable. And it seems like this is a good opportunity to make that space usable. So, that would be my argument. But anyway, so I'm going to not talk. And Alderwoman Howard's got her hand up. So I just wanted, I was just thinking about that. I wanted to mention it.
Yeah, well, based on what I've heard everybody say thus far, the ARPA money is in consideration for the build out because that's a one-time thing, but they haven't even finalized exactly how and all the things that they need yet. And so they're having ongoing conversations. But today, our task is not to deal with the build out. our task today is to deal with the additional employee, full-time employee that they need. And Paul has already said he hears us, which means he's already looking in the budget for that money right now. So that's our task for today. And we will continue to have oversight and be concerned as they're moving with collaborative conversations about the build out. I hope I said that right. What do you think, Nancy and Paul?
I'm fine with that because you put it on Paul, but yes, that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. Madam Chair, the other thing I commented is that I heard is that you say ask for more than you need. That's what I said.
No, you know what I meant too. You know
I
I'm
know
coming
exactly
for it.
what you
Make that.
exactly
Okay.
what you meant. But yeah, I heard that.
Okay. All righty. Alderwoman Howard.
I think everything's been said. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Nothing further. So, it's all been said. Thank you. But
All right.
again, thank you for all you do.
All right, ma'am. Let's go here. I don't know why my panel keeps falling off. Okay, get back here. Well, I'm gonna leave that alone. Okay, so was there any other comments from committee members after hearing that conversation? Okay. Okay. So again, we have, I think we've heard and now understand everything with the communication division. We're looking forward to the exciting new developments that are coming ahead. And I thank you again for your presentation today. Okay.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
All right.
it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's see here. So members of committee, before we move on in the agenda as far as further discussion on board bill number 1, which I think we are prepared to go into discussion of anything that you believe needs some adjustment. But before we do that, I'm going to ask Paul Payne to explain the annual budget and also explain to the public that this is not a process that cannot be reviewed in the future if there are changes or opportunities to improve. And so, Paul, please explain what happens with a budget once it's approved and how you work with it all year.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, first thing I'll point out is that we always refer to it, if you'll notice on the budget cover, as the annual operating plan, because that's in fact what it is.
Yeah.
It's an estimate of revenues as well as an authorization for expenditures to provide services throughout the year. But there are, as you mentioned, there are as revenues come in either higher or lower, or expenditures, certain services may come up to the fore to where you may need to, let's say, some emergency shows up and you need to get some people in on overtime or something like that. We are able to do budgetary transfers throughout the year to accommodate those unforeseen events, which are often, every year's got them, some more than others, to address those kind of situations. Similarly, when we have a situation where, let's say, as I've mentioned before, a recession is in the offing and we start seeing revenues decline, we also have to we monitor those revenues as we go along and identify, do we need to take steps to make sure that we don't end up in a deficit by the end of the year? We've gone through that before. So in this past fiscal year, as an example, we had a supplemental appropriation related to the capital fund. And that's simply because when we had a surplus in the prior year, which we anticipate to have this year, we have funds available later in the fiscal year to appropriate back for the capital fund. And then that's, given that it's a one-time surplus, then it's a one-time use of funds, and that's actually a good public policy. But yeah, as events transpire through the year and needs of departments may or may not change, we do have the ability to reallocate funds from a transfer standpoint. That's those usually submitted by the departments as they request them, saying, "Hey, we'd like to. We were planning on filling these positions, but these positions we haven't been able to, so we're going to contract certain positions, and so we will move salary funds into a contractual line item." And those are through a budget transfer approved by the Board of E&A upon review of myself, and then signed off by the Comptroller's office. So those type of things are common throughout the fiscal year. So there are ability to amend budgetary items as needs arise, as well as the personnel schedule. So in situations such as a department might say, "Hey, well, I can't fill this position, but I really need this other position," they can say, "Hey, submit to E&A. We'd like to exchange this one position for another, or we'd like to add this position as well." As long as the funding is there, E&A will opine on that and give them the authorization to do so. So that is a work in process. The budget, while it's the best thing we've done is that we do have a balanced budget by July 1. We ensure that. But as everyone knows, it's a budget. And so as things transpire throughout the fiscal year, we adjust wherever needed to make sure that we can provide the services that were planned at the beginning of the year, as well as end the fiscal year without going into a deficit situation. So in terms of this process, once you are done with your meetings, whether there's any increases or decreases, the increases, it goes back to E&A for approval, to which they may or may not agree, or if it's just decreases or not changes at all, then it would just go through your committee and go to the full board for final adoption. One way or the other, however, we will have a budget by July 1, which is a fiscally responsible thing to do. And so that's where we are in this process.
Very well said. So what I'd like to do is, before I go back to the committee, to ask them if they have anything they need to present along those lines. I'm going to put my ask in first and ask you to prepare the technical format for me to add that additional position for the Division of Communications. And then I'll submit it by the time I'm done with the rest of the committee as I go through. So let me start with Alderman Vaccaro, please.
So the budget seemed pretty whole, and I didn't see a lot of issues. I know the fire department, but Paul explained that it was actually there. You just have to look for it. So Paul, the only question I had is on ward capital. It's based off of sales tax revenues. Are we being fair and honest? In other words, is that the real number, the 300 whatever? Is that a real number, or is that just a number that's thrown out there? I mean, like, based off the sales tax, should there be a higher number?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. And we discussed this a little bit earlier in the proceedings, is that the way, first of all, you are fully allocated what the estimate is for the half-cent sales tax. And as we've discussed with the capital fund, the ward accounts get like 50% after the 1.3 million that goes in BPS and streets is off the top from all those accounts. But the way capital appropriation works is that in any given year, the sales tax may either be at estimate or underestimate or overestimate. If it's underestimate, we don't come back and take monies out. We just adjust the next year. So you may end up we give you the full allocation and then deduct whatever was short in the prior year. This year, with revenues exceeding estimates, what we've got is you get the full allocation, plus you've got a beginning balance for each ward. So that's why I think there was, as I mentioned, I'm just going off the top of my head, I think it was like 1.4 million in addition to what you'd normally receive this year. So your numbers are actually a little higher this year than they would normally be, simply because the sales tax is exceeding estimates this year. So yeah, to answer your question, you're getting the full amount plus the beginning balance that we estimate to be there. And of course, as this FY23 proceeds, if there's any additional funds there, depending on how sales tax performs, then that would also you catch up the following year as well. So that's how that works. I do want to comment, and this is something I didn't say in my original comments, is that, yeah, we are actually, for those who are listening, we are actually in an unusual year in that we do have funds available. Most of our challenges, as you've seen from the departments, is getting the personnel and all to perform the services as opposed to the actual funding for the services. So that's an unusual position to be in. But as you've seen throughout most of the departments, and Alderman Carl, as you mentioned, there weren't that many areas where you say, hey, we need more funding. It was more, we need to get the people to provide the service more than anything else.
Well, I mean, the only reason I asked Paul is, I mean, as I got my budget and think, okay, good, this will go somewhere. With a 30% increase in the cost of the materials, it's really like a 30+% cut to ward capital. Because I mean, I looked at it and I'll be lucky if we can pave, literally pave a street or two. I mean, they're just, you know, if you try to do trees or dumpsters or, you know, matching funds, you know, for park improvements, anything. It just, you know, again, with the, what they're telling me is, you know, the giant increases because of the cost of materials and everything. It's really like a 30% cut to our ward capital, possibly even more, because I know I'm going to have to spend way more to do way less. But, you know, that's why I was maybe hoping you'd say, no, there's some extra money we found. So, and it's just asking. Other than that, the budget as it is, you know, I think I agree with you, Paul. Overall, it's good. I think the bigger complaint is finding the people to get to do the work. I get that. And hopefully that all fixes itself. So anyway, I have no issues with the budget this year. I mean, it is what it is. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. Alderwoman Howard.
I have nothing. I agree with your suggestion or your change that we need to add another person for our communications. They need all the help they can get, and they seem to be running a slim budget and doing the whole job. They're, you know, dancing on the head of a pin. So I am all for that. Whatever we can do to help them do a better job. I don't know if they can get much better, but whatever they need, I think we need to support them. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman Spencer.
I don't see her on here, Madam Chair.
I see, it looks like she's left. I'm sorry. Alderwoman Boyd.
I don't have anything. Thank you for the direction that you're giving us, and I'm fine. I can always touch bases with Paul to finalize anything.
Right. Thank you. Alderman Oldenburg. Looks like we lost him too. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing.
All right. And we don't have Alderwoman Evans. Okay. So I want to go back to I wanted to speak with Chief of Staff Boyd. I thought I saw Jerry. Okay. All right. Nancy, I'm going to give you this, our Director of Operations, Nancy Croft. I'm going to give
I'm
you
here.
my question. So I am going to be requesting that the executive branch look at this additional staff person for the communications department. And I'm glad that you were here. You could hear all the conversation, the understanding of why, and most especially the importance of how that being fully funded for that department can truly help our city in so many ways. My number one for me has always been the more educated your population is, the better they can not only take care of themselves, but support and understand the things that we are doing and recommending on their behalf. So that's why I've always supported this division and always wanted to be run at full capacity. So I'm sharing that with you. So when I send this back over, you can share why we're asking for that position to be filled.
Okay, Chairwoman.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Paul, the process for me is to sign off on that document. And I see my secretary is online. So Tracy, what I need you to do for me is Paul is going to email that to me and you. And we will get it signed. And after we take our vote and everything, it'll go along with the process and procedure to send it back for E&A to have consideration. So we know all that'll be taken care of today. And what I'd like to do, if the board feels, if the committee feels comfortable, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept Board Bill 1 out of committee with the necessary amendment request. And hopefully, no, I won't. Hold on. What I'd like to do is just to simply say to you, I wanted you to, and most of you said it when you were talking just a moment ago, we're going to send this back to E&A with that request. It'll come back and then we vote it out. So what I'm asking the board clerk to do is to set me up a meeting for, if possible, for Thursday morning. I don't believe this is going to take a lot of consideration, and I think it can be turned around in 24 hours.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just so I'm clear, so it's the intent to ask the Board of E&A to consider this addition as an amendment to the proposed bill, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so typically what would transpire is that you'd have the amendment, so we'd put that into a form, and you'd say, okay, you'd like to formally request to send that back to E&A, so you suspend your meetings, that would go back to E&A. Now E&A, and I'll defer to Nancy on that, but I know E&A's meeting is on the 15th, the one that's scheduled. So that would be when the E&A would most likely take it up. And so then upon approval, it'd be returned. And so most likely the following day, which would be that Thursday, probably I guess that would be, well, I'm looking at the calendar here. The 16th, they'd come back and say, okay, here's what E&A did. They either accepted or rejected or did some other change or whatever it was, and then come back to committee so that you could send it back out of committee with your recommendation for the full board consideration by the meeting on the 17th.
I'm good with whatever you require. Okay.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, when you look at that, you're running out of.
Because I need to get this approved by the.
That's right.
meeting.
If you send it to the Board of E&A and they for the E&A meeting on the 15th, that leaves you only with 2 Fridays. So you would have to suspend rules to pass to get that through, which is not it's not unusual to do that, obviously, but that's just letting you know where you're at on the schedule.
And so I'm even willing to ask E&A to have a special meeting between now and Friday, if everybody's available and/or because we got Zoom. So no matter where you are, what you're doing, you can take 15 minutes and do this. Because I'd like to have comfort on a bill like this. I don't want to take any chances of anything going wrong. And it'll be the first time in a while that we actually passed out the budget without a lot of back and forth. This is very simple. And so I'm going to be requesting that. I'm going to be asking for that.
Can I ask a point of clarification, Alderwoman Davis? Are you looking for E&A to meet between now and Friday morning, the 10th of June? Or are you, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the last meeting before there's the session break is June 17th, correct?
No, we'll go through this, but the charter says this has to be passed by July 1 for operation.
Correct.
Yeah, so we need to get it passed in June.
So, but your last meeting is not June 17th.
July, it's in July.
You'll have another Friday. You'll have the June 24th as yours.
No, I'm asking because of the compensation plans, Paul.
Oh, I see.
Our last meeting's in July. We go on summer
Okay,
break in July.
okay, so that's good, okay. I heard what the Alderwoman has requested and I will see what can be done about that.
I really do appreciate that. I think that this is truly needed for so many reasons, based on the climate of how we're trying to do business, based on the what I consider to be the over-exaggerated position that we've been put in with misinformation going out to the public. We need that full staff so they can provide every type of opportunity for people to get good, clear, concise information directly from the city.
I have a question, I guess.
Yes, sir, go right ahead.
So, and I guess to Paul, normally, and I know that this can be asked this way, but normally, don't we normally cut somewhere and put back and then they make that decision? In this case, we're just asking them to add something to the budget. Will they have to find a place they can cut? Because we didn't. Because normally we would have to find a place that we're cutting to put that position back. If we send it to them this way, then they have to find, because it's a balanced budget. So they're going to have to find a place to take that money from to put that in. Am I correct? Or
I'll fill out my form appropriately. So
yes.
No, it's not that. It's normally we have a cut where we cut from one department to put to one department. And I guess that's I guess that's what I'm looking at. And
That's correct. Usually there is. And now in the past, Ways and Means has done both. I mean, they've had additions with reductions, and usually that's easier because you've identified them. And then sometimes it's additions, requested to E&A to accommodate in some way, and they'll look and say, okay, well, we need to find the monies for this, and so in any event, you're right. The end result will be this goes up, something else goes down, and you get funded whatever is being requested. So that's the ultimate result, but it's taken different forms in getting there.
Right. Well, I just wanted for my own clarity, because normally we have to say, well, take from line that, let's just
That's
say.
one way to do it, as Paul just said. That is one way to do it. And I have done it 2 other ways. And the way I'm doing it now, I'm proposing a collaborative opportunity. That is what I'm proposing. And I don't want to be the one to direct it, because I don't have to. But I want to have everybody else involved in this. And it's simpler that way. And we normally don't have to have a lot of back and forth.
No, I understand. I just, for my own clarity, something, whether we cut it or E&A cuts it, something has to be cut.
It can be done that way. Yes, that is one of the ways you can do it.
So Paul, is there another way that I'm missing? I mean, can you just add money to the budget, like find money somewhere and just add it in the budget?
Well, yeah, I mean, the balance has to be maintained in some respect. So whether that's, whether that's on a revenue side or on the expense side, it has to be maintained to whatever you're adding or subtracting from the budget. So, but that's, as the chair indicated, basically what you're conveying is that this is a need that you feel that you would like to have addressed in the budget, and that would be recommended to the Board of E&A, and they will consider that, and if they respond to it favorably, then they'll find something some mechanism to address it in keeping that balance in order.
Okay, but I mean, that's what I thought. So they'll have to make a cut somewhere. They can't just add money to the budget.
Oh, no, there's no way you can just add money to the budget.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to get across. So they're going to have to cut. They got to take from somebody, and I'm good with that. I just 14 years of doing this, it seems that we've always done it, but we've done the cuts and putbacks ourselves and then send it over to them.
Well, we've actually done it both ways. There were some things that, because I know I was vice chair with April and somebody else, I think I can't think who, but we would also go back to the chief of staff and we would work on some things. And that way it didn't have to be so much back and forth. And it was they make those decisions of what they feel most comfortable with. And that's an easier way to do it versus me trying to figure out what they're trying to do on the executive side. And then it gets over there and it's not what they need or want or would support. So it has been done both ways.
Okay, don't be shocked if they say, well, the best place to take is from the aldermanic requests and move it over to this. I'm just saying, if we're not the ones making that decision and we're saying what they do is fine, then just don't be surprised with what they come up with. And I'll leave it at that. But they technically will look in the balances and say, well, all these different staff members that the aldermen are asking for could easily be eliminated and moved to this position. I'm just saying, well, if we're not the ones controlling the scenario, but we're going to pass it off and say, we'll accept what they're doing, keeping in mind there's a timeline involved in this.
Well, we still have the opportunity to make our own change if that is the case.
I understand.
We have one of the smallest budgets in the entire city. So I'm going to make a statement to say, I don't think that's likely. And I would hope that it's not likely. Okay.
The only point I'm trying to get across, and I'm maybe just trying to be argumentative, but The only point I'm getting across, say that they could do a cut that we don't agree with and they send back.
And
we're-
we still have the opportunity, sir,
I
to
understand.
do
but
what we believe is best. I
I-
am trying to move forward in the most easy, collaborative way at this moment, and also for a timely, swift way for this to be completed.
I understand, but if they send something back we don't like, then we have to change it, send it back, then they have to approve it, send it back. I'm just saying, I know that, was it last year or the year before, we never did approve board bill number 1. It was kind of an
There was a
interesting,
whole lot more involved with a number of things, not just this one simple small thing that's less than $100,000.
I understand. I'm gonna just mute myself. I was just, for members that haven't been on Ways and Means for a long time, I just wanted to lay that out as, they may take from what you're, and I used the Board of Aldermen, I could have used forestry, I could have used fire, I could have used police. I used the Board of Aldermen. I'm just saying that they potentially could take that from somewhere, a position from somewhere that is near and dear to someone else's heart. I'm gonna mute myself. I just wanted to make that point. That was all. Thank you.
All right,
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Where am I at here? Okay, so Paul, if you just email the document to myself and Tracy Billups, I'll get it completed in the next 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, Alderwoman Howard, Alderman Davis.
Okay, Alderwoman Howard, go right ahead.
I just have a question for Paul. And this is pertaining to finding money maybe for more a healthier raise for our employees. Do we look at departments that have positions open and how long they're allowed to keep those on the rolls?
We do. As you'll see in most departments' budgets, you'll see, particularly the larger ones, we have a certain amount of salary savings in there. Historically, we're identifying the fact that we know you've got this roster of employees that it's never going to all be filled at any given time. So we'll assume you're not going to spend all your salaries. But what we've been experiencing in the last few years is that list of vacancies has been getting longer. And so I guess the question becomes, how much of this is a permanent change versus how much is this temporary? Because if you're a department head, you don't want to lose your positions because you have services to provide going forward. And so you assume that you want to be able to fill this. Now, how long that goes on, I don't know. And that's a good question. Whether there's something fundamentally changing in the economy to where now, as you've heard in our earlier deliberations, where they're now supplementing staff work with contractual work simply because you can't get the people.
Right.
And that may be more common simply because you're trying to hire and you can't. Or maybe it's temporary. Next recession hit, everyone goes back to their old mode and we've got people again. So that's a good question. We do look at that about how many vacancies. Every year we'll look at that and sometimes we'll reduce if we see that it's maintained. Or sometimes we won't grant an increase because they haven't gotten the ones they've got vacant filled. So I think it's a matter of just continuing to evaluate and monitor those as we go along and see whether.
And my thinking was, if we have positions that aren't filled, you have a workforce that's doing more with, and possibly allocating that number, but I don't even know if you have a number on what that savings is for the vacant positions. So.
Right. And then the question then becomes, but if you fill those positions later, then you're
right.
budgetarily in a pickle. So that's the.
Yeah, it's just a question that came to mind. I was wondering. And then one more, if positions go unfilled, are departments allowed to allocate that money in a different avenue? Or is that strictly for personnel?
This year in particular, I've seen a larger number of transfers from salaries and such, like for instance, to contractual services, or let's say they need a piece of equipment or something. In years and where the budget's tighter, we would say no, because salaries, you pay salaries where you have to pay salaries, where the person's on the payroll, you'll have to pay it. We don't want to run short. This year with them underspending on the salary accounts, there have been a number of transfers out. So that transfer process that I discussed earlier is one of their avenues for addressing that.
Okay, that's all I have. It's just a thought and trying to look at how we can, increase our workforce. It's a big problem here in the city. So, okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has a comment based on the conversations we've had?
Madam Chair, I do.
Go right ahead.
And I do know that, well, we are looking at trying to work in regards with the employees. And I've always been adamant that we need to make sure that we're keeping the staff that we do have, because the way the economy is going and the job market, we're losing at an astronomical rate, and it's hurting us as a city. And so I'm happy that, personnel is trying to look at more different ways to hire people, and administration is trying to say, okay, we might have to do things differently because we need to come up with right now. And so all these positions that are open, I think it's hurting people budget-wise because they're not able to fill them, because we don't have the workforce out there. And that's where the challenges come to us in a whole. And so I kind of piggyback what Alderwoman Howard says. I just want to make sure that we don't forget our employees. And I know, a lot of people are in the back trying to help with the salaries and the benefit packages for our employees. But I just wanted people to understand we have to be more aggressive, because the little that we have to show the appreciation and kind of help them to understand that we know we're in a pickle, but we have to address this in a way to help them also. So that's all I have. I just want to thank everybody.
Right. And both of you are correct. It is, and I'm going to try to say this in a kind way. City governments, sometimes we get ourselves in a position of not necessarily wanting to change process and procedure, but it is mandatory. If you ever work in corporate America, it is mandatory that you are looking every day how to improve operations and bottom line. And so I think we're going to get there because we don't have any other choice now. And I was glad to hear some of our department heads say, well, maybe we're going to have to contract out some of this stuff, because you can't just continue to say, I don't have employees and just sit there. Trash got to be picked up, streets need to be paved, all kinds of things need to be done. So you got to get it done. And the money is sitting there for employees, and that money can be transferred out of that category and use it for contractual services. So I would not be looking at trying to cut a lot of that, because we still got to provide the service. So I appreciate you all, having that conversation. And again, the more we talk about this, and we talk about it in a very thorough way, the better the public will be able to understand what it is that's going on and how it should improve. I say it should improve as we move forward this year, because we're facing a lot of reality. You just can't get around it. It is what it is. So with that, I'm going to excuse the alderperson Evans from the 4th Ward. And I think everybody else was present at some point. So Before I adjourn the meeting, I'm gonna give you one more chance. I'm asking the clerk, our board clerk, to schedule us another meeting. I really wanted to pass this out of committee, so it could have been on the second read for this Friday, but it looks like we may not be able to do that. But I still want to schedule another meeting for it at the latest Thursday. And let's try to pass this out. And I believe Nancy will do all she can to try to get the other side together. And if we see that can't happen, if we have our meeting scheduled for Thursday, we'll go ahead and do it the other way and get this passed out of committee. So it can be second read Friday and we'll be on schedule. So one more time, anybody have anything else? Paul? Nothing else? Good? All right. All right, sir. So I'd like to officially call our meeting adjourned and thank everyone for being present and all the great dialogue today.